This conference will now be recorded.
Bobby, you want to turn your mic on, please? I can hear your beautiful voice. We don't have any amendments, right?
Not that I know of. Other than Joan is doing the bills again.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, but I didn't know who was.
I think you did it 3 times and then she's done it just the twice. But Kevin's only did it once.
Tomorrow morning.
I thought I had this one perfect.
Oh, geez.
Oh.
I mean, they keep you busy.
We hit record.
Yeah, we had a cross warning twice, so we were out finding the roads.
Oh,
They're
sure.
rolling in.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. That's kind of dangerous too, isn't it?
All
A
the
lot of
bridges
people,
will ice over real
yeah,
quick.
and people don't realize it. and fly
Get their
through.
I got 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting in order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe we don't have any amendments, so I just need to approve the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Review the minutes from the regular meeting of November 16th.
Make a motion to approve the November 16th meeting minutes as written.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Accounts payable, Joan.
Sent 79596 for $40,057.11, which is a Kirk Brinkman Slinging LLC, and then 79624 was the Fire Department Relief Association for $40,770.73. Everything else was very normal. I would make the motion that we approve accounts payable in the amount of $175,060.98.
Second.
Any further discussions on accounts payable? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Joan. Public portion comments. Individuals may address the city council about any items of concerns. Speakers must state their name and limit their remarks to 2 minutes. Any public comments?
We'll have the public comments for the hearings during the hearings. So.
So you guys talking about the budget levy?
If you-
Or do you want to talk about the truck route? Yeah, there'll be a time for that when that time comes. This is anything other than them 2 topics.
Yeah, and we'll talk about parking with that too.
Any public comments? We will close it, the public comment portion, and we'll open the public hearing for the 2023 final budget and levy. Kimberly, please.
You're just gonna do it from up there? Or you want me to?
Right, we have our yearly budget hearing. As you know, we've been working on this for approximately, well, since May. There we go. And so I have a little bit of a history for levy with you. When we originally brought the initial levy in September, remember that when we go to the county and levy, we have to levy the maximum amount we will. We can't go any higher after that. If something goes, we find an unexpected expense or something changes. When we went in September, we were concerned about a couple items that were kind of open-ended. So our levy at that point was about a 10% increase. Since then, we've been able to revise the cost in 2024, and we've been able to bring our levy increase down to 7.96%. That does not mean your taxes are going to go up 7.96% on your homes. We'll go through that a little bit later, but that's the breakdown of what we do for funds. These ones on the bottom, the 716, those are properties that are in TIF districts. They don't really affect our levy. They just are pass-throughs at this point for different projects, whether it be paying off loans or some kind of TIF agreement that we've had with them, or an abatement. All righty, let me see. Well, or not. Oops, I gotta go back. Sorry about this, I'm doing this from the wrong angle here. Not. From the beginning, there we go. Okay. All right, this is just a history of our population. And as you can see, in 2007, we had a population of 3,165. In 2023, which is the official demographer information we can get right now, our population is at 3,796 within the city of Zumbrota. Of course, remember, that does not mean we have a lot of people in outlying areas that think because they have the Zumbrota zip code, they are residents of the city of Zumbrota. That, of course, is not true. There are many people that live outside the city that take advantage of amenities that are within the city, but they do not pay city taxes. This is the new commercial value that we added in 2023. In 2020 and 2021, we had a lot of commercial value added due to the expansion of the dairy. However, in 22 and 23, we haven't seen that. We've seen some remodels, but we haven't seen a new industry come into town. So you will see that. And as you can see, it kind of ebbs and flows if we have a large manufacturer come in, or if somebody else comes in, or if somebody remodels or puts an addition on. In 2007 to 2023, this is our new residential constructions. 21 was a good year, 22 was a good year, 23, we have 9 homes. Now, how that impacts all of us is the more value we have coming into the city for market value, that could mean the potential of lowering taxes for the whole, depending on what the market value does, or at least softening increases. So we are not going to see a big amount of market value increase in the next year, which is what they're predicting through the county. And this is our added market value. You can see how much we've added every year. Like in 2021, we've added over $10 million in residential home additions. In 2023, we added $2.3 million. And here is just a little visual of what we've been doing with our levy. It's been going up and up. Now, the increases that we're seeing in our levy right now are primarily to do with inflationary increases, increase in wages, increase in benefits, and also increase in our set-asides for capital projects and capital equipment. We spent last year working on a plan, working with Ellers and a consultant to get a plan so that we have a steady increase for our capital equipment and our projects, so that we do not have to raise the levy up at huge amounts. We don't want to see our levy going like this, which is, I think we've seen a lot of seesaw. It'll go maybe 2%, 3%, and then it'll go up to 9 or 10%, and then it'll go back down. We don't want to see that. We want to see something a little bit more level. I think that's easier for people to handle than things going way up and then not really down, but a lesser up and then way up again. So I think we're trying to even it off, and that's what we strive to do within the city. And it's a tool we're using where we can look at that and analyze what we need to spend and what we might need to cut back on, and also what impacts would be if the council should choose to bond for any projects, what those impacts would do to our levy. Okay, this is, I kind of like this one. This is property values, and these are actual properties in the city of Zumbrota. I have valuations for 2023. I have 10 properties on there. I have the city tax, the city portion of the tax, the city tax rate. I have the 2024 property value. We saw an increase of approximately 10% in property values for residential homes. And I have what the estimated city tax is. Market value of the homes, of course, is not set by the city. It's not set by the county. It is set by sales for the previous 18 months. So, for example, more than likely your home is going to be worth, at least what they show you, is probably going to be worth less, or it's going to have a market value of less than what you paid for it, or that you would be selling it for if you would go on, because the state statute says you can go between, I believe it's 85 and 105% of the value when the county sets the value. Our Goodhue County has traditionally set lower. So normally there's not. We have had some questions about people questioning their market value, especially in some of the newer purchases. We all know home prices have been going through the roof. And I had one person ask me about their home value. And I said, well, what did you pay for your home? And they said, I paid X amount of dollars, or my house isn't worth this. And I said, well, what did you pay for your home? And they said, I paid X amount of dollars. It was actually more than what their market value was. And I said, you set the market value by purchasing your house. So this market that we have seen with high market values, that is going to impact everybody within there. So that's why we're seeing this rate. We'll see now what happens next year with increase in interest rates, but there's always about an 18-month lag between what we see on our taxes and what we see in the market and when we get our money as far as tax money within the city. And I pulled up my own because remember, all your tax information is public information. So you can go on the Goodhue County website anytime and look up any address in the city. And it's not private, but I always like when people call and they say, I pay $4,000 in taxes to the city. Well, they do pay $4,000 in tax. In my case, I pay $3,564 in taxes this year. But as you can see, it's broken up into many different players. We have 3 players that our taxes go to. The school district, we have no control within the city of what the school district levies, and the county, we have no control in the city for what the county levies. We only control our portion, which is right here, right there. Let's County, city right here. Those are the portions that we can control. Again, like I said, the property tax statement that you probably all received in the mail in the last 2 weeks, that was an estimate. Now that I anticipate with your approval at the next meeting, that we'll be dropping that levy amount that will impact that and bring the taxes down. If you go, it went, I believe my house that I looked at, my increase in the city portion of the taxes was about $120 for my home that was proposed. And now I believe with the change, it's an impact of about 96. So it has dropped with that. Again, we only have several ways we can raise funds for the city. One is taxes, one is fees, or we can cut services. So those are kind of our options. We can also, cutting service could be cutting personnel, cutting park hours, cutting, no offense, James, library hours, but cutting services. We're very limited into what we can and cannot raise. Within the budget, if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer any that you may have on it, or if you have any questions. That's kind of my synopsis in a nutshell of what we're doing. And it was a hard year to budget. We had some things come up at the end we weren't anticipating. Everybody worked really hard to get them done, and I think it went well. You will be seeing some in the water and sewer budgets. Just for right now, we are anticipating a 3% increase in rates. Our financial consultant, Ellers, will be getting back to us. We don't have that 100%, but at the next meeting, you will have the water and sewer portions of the budget finalized. Remember, those are not based on levy dollars, so those are service dollars, so those don't play into the levy at all.
The average levy increase in Minnesota is 8.4%. And so we were happy to see we're below that. We're below the average, and we're still providing a lot of services. We're making progress on roads, public works equipment, and things like that. Just trying to keep everything going as you know, without blowing the taxes out of the water at the 47.94%. That's really low. We're way low in the
We're
whole
lower
area.
than the area.
So your city taxes are quite low compared to the whole area. You know, when you factor in other things, it gets up there, but we still have to run the city. So, you know, just want you to know we're trying hard to keep that in check and still get done the things we need to get done, keep the roads going and keep progressing. So.
Any questions, council? Concerns? I just want to thank Kim and Brian and rest of city staff and council. I know every year, we spend 5-6 months dealing with budgets and special meetings, but we almost got 2024 done, so.
Any questions out there?
Any questions from the public on the budget? I will close the final budget and levy portion, and we will open up the public hearings for the Jefferson truck routes. Before we have any public input, we'll give a little briefing on that from Brian and Bill Ingerman, our city engineer. Who wants, Brian?
Yeah, I'll go first. Yep. So the reason this came up is we get a lot of complaints about all the traffic downtown, especially truck traffic moving through. We also get a lot of complaints from the truckers on how difficult it is to go, from the DFA or Comcast, which is where most of the trucks are going, to get out of there and go down to Main Street and take a right and go all the way up to the roundabout to get north or south on Highway 52. The reality of it is a lot of them have been going up Jefferson to 5th Street for a number of years. We haven't instructed our police department to actively enforce that. If we did actively enforce that, we're going to send a whole lot more trucks down to Main Street, which is going to muddy it up down there more. So the proposal is that, we've got the new road, it's wider, it's smooth, so you're not going to hear the truck banging through there anymore. It's built as a 10-ton road, which is for a truck or for trucks. The turning radius at 5th Street is such that the trucks can make their turns there. It just seems to be the most quick and efficient way to get trucks, in and out of town. We'll allow them to come down, come off of the 60 bridge in and then down Jefferson and then back out that way. We'll put up a bunch of signage to try and make sure they don't go down all the way down or on the city roads that are not built for trucks. That was the motivation or the reasoning behind making this proposal to council to add that section of road to the allowable truck route. With that, I'll have Bill talk about the engineering side of all of that.
So there's an engineering component to this. So when a city looks at this on the engineering side, the primary thing we look at is what's called functional classification. So all the roads in the city are divided up into 4 categories. They're divided up into arterial, highway, arterial, collector, and local. And then we have corresponding standards for each one, related to width, related to construction, as far as how much rock, curb and gutter, drainage, things like that. So Jefferson Drive is in your comprehensive plan and is classified as a collector road. Okay, so again, that hierarchy is local, collector, arterial, and highway. And I thought I would just read out of the ordinance just what the definition of collector is, just to help everybody out. So as defined by the subdivision ordinance, a collector street is a street which collects and distributes traffic within an urban area, such as a residential neighborhood between arterial and local streets. It provides access to abutting lands. Okay, and there's some other definitions. MnDOT defines it as well. And, we take our guidance. Generally, this is pretty similar to what you would find in traffic literature, also from the DOT, et cetera. So what this means is that, while Jefferson does have driveways on it, it is intended to gather traffic from surrounding neighborhoods, and it is intended for truck traffic. When we designed this, we had discussions at this as far as the width, what things can be done. It was designed this. We ultimately said this decision will come to the city council. So we did not limit that decision. We did not make a decision that the city council's hand was forced on this. In addition to that, Brian, I'm not sure if you were going to address parking. You wanted me to address parking, but I'll throw that in there.
Yeah, or stop signs as well.
So typically then, when you're looking at a route, one of the things that anytime you have a new road, in particular a collector street, such as Jefferson, when we in essence widen it out, we haven't had speed complaints yet, but I imagine they're coming. We'll talk to the chief some more, but so one of the things we look at is also parking. So there are a listing of best management practices for both truck routes and for speed, and a best management practice is to allow parking. That will slow vehicles down. Typically, we would start with one side. So in conjunction with this, I know this is not the task at hand right off the bat. Tonight is the designated truck route, but it is the engineering recommendation to also allow parking on one side of the street in the residential portion. And I think, Brian, we're not asking for a council tonight, but I thought we'd bring that up. And what we were looking at was the residential portion was basically where the Mayo Clinic building or Bitter Creek, the creek that comes through just to the south of west. That portion north, we'd be looking at adding on-street parking on one side. Again, that helps with the speed issue. That's not necessarily they kind of coincide with the truck side of this. In addition, on the stop sign side of this, again, we're just anticipating some things. So we are governed by what's called the MUTCDs, the Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices, meaning we're supposed to have what are called warrants. There's criteria for us putting stop signs in. So being that Jefferson is really brand new in this format, it does not meet any warrants right now for additional stop signs, but besides what's up there, that's something we will monitor over the next months or years. But one thing that the MUTCD, sorry, a lot of acronyms, it recommends that stop signs are not to be used for speed control. Okay, so that's one thing we always got to keep in mind. Stop signs not to be used for speed control, primarily because they're found to be ineffective and actually generally increase accidents. Okay, if you put them in and they're not warranted. And then they list warrants, so we have such things as, the warrants in order to justify stop signs are generally based on traffic of both your side street and your main street. They're also based on pedestrian counts, some other factors as well. But again, we're not addressing stop signs, but typically when we have a truck route discussion or a parking discussion, that comes into that. So Brian and I thought we'd just at least mention that. So the engineering recommendation for tonight on the truck route is to change the designation from Fifth to First as a truck route and to add in parking on one side along with that. That would be consistent with your subdivision ordinance for the classification of street. So.
Yeah, and I was thinking that we would have a little bit more discussion. We wanted to bring the parking up because I know some of you are here for that reason. And have a little bit more discussion with our streets committee, which is Bob and Sarah, beforehand, and then make that proposal maybe at the next council meeting as to which side of the road or what sections or where we would have parking on one side. Warrants a little bit more discussion, but I think traffic calming is a big reason for that. It's been said that, we lost parking on Jefferson. There was never parking on Jefferson. Not to say nobody parked on Jefferson or on the side of Jefferson, which was in the city right of way, which is fine. We didn't, we weren't going to enforce anything with that, but nobody lost any parking. And that's why when we designed this and we went forward, we did it the same as Jefferson was and always was, with no parking on either side. That was the start. Again, in anticipation during the design phase, we did have this discussion as well, with the thought that once we're up and going, we would bring this back to the council. So, and we have heard from a few citizens on that, and absolutely, we're willing to talk about that and bring it back to you guys for that. But as far as the truck route goes, open up to public comments. I think that's it.
If you want to comment, just state your name and your address and limit to 2 minutes.
And then, come up to the table so we can hear you. Yes, you gotta come to the table. We didn't get the traveling microphones that you got.
So I'm Tiffany Senslin. I live on the corner of Mill Street in Jefferson. And I was just wondering if, I don't necessarily have a problem with trucks. I did do childcare right at that corner. It was never the trucks that are speeding through there. It's cars, young people coming to and from school. Even though they're turning, they're still going way too fast right there. And that's even parents and probably myself. But what I was wondering is this going to, are more trucks going to get off on 16 and travel down Jefferson instead of over by Casey's because they're avoiding the roundabout? Because there's been accidents and trucks tipping. Is that why we're doing that? Because it seems to me it would be make more sense to come on the roundabout, just go straight through on Main Street instead of.
Yeah, so what we anticipate is those trucks that have been doing that and then coming down First Street will now go to the 60 bridge to Fifth Street and
And then go
in that
south.
way, rather than all the way down Main Street where all the pedestrians are and then turn left on First. So they'll go to 60, the 60 bridge now on Fifth Street, come in there, take a left and be right down to, most of the trucks are going to Comcast or DFA.
Most trucks coming in to the Zumbrota area go northbound 52 up to the Covered Bridge Restaurant and in that way.
Right.
That's the
Yeah, good point.
current truck route into that area, is the trucks coming out of
So
that
from
area.
from DFA and Comcast, they take a left on First Street, go up to Main Street, and then go out to go south on
And
52.
they have to take all the lanes of traffic as they turn right around the blind intersection currently versus much safer traveling out.
Pretty much, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point, Kevin. Thank you for that.
So it's not as much traffic as we're probably anticipating.
No, it's just gonna be when they're leaving DFA or Comcast, they're gonna go up to Fifth Street, take a right, versus going up First Street to Main Street to go south on 52.
And we're talking about just that section between Fifth Street and First, because that's the quick and efficient way out. Going all the way back down to Main Street along that route would make no sense, because there's a way out of town. And the trucks don't want to do that either.
They prefer to go turn by Casey's that way.
Yeah, that's what they'll do there.
Yeah, I was
And we're leaving,
just wondering.
yeah, we're leaving that a truck route as well, so First Street, so.
I do have questions about, what's this thing about parking, but I
Well,
don't
you
think
can,
that's what.
if you want to hear anything about parking now, as long as.
Yeah, I mean,
So, again, in the same spot, there's that big red barn, which most of you have seen. And I have a personal interest, a selfish interest, because I've been investing in it to turn it into a venue. And now she's ready, and we had COVID, and then we had construction, and now we have this, and so I'm like, okay, basically, if there's no parking, I'm sunk, because I don't expect my residents to have to deal with that nuisance. Not that, who knows, I would be busy at all, but heaven forbid it take off, and then the neighbors are forced to deal with too much parking nuisance that they didn't plan for. So have a personal investment here and really need parking on one side, just to be able to offer that up to them.
Bill, just a question, just to verify. Jefferson was not built to have 2 lanes of traffic plus parking on both sides, correct? Will it get pretty tight?
So what we did is we designed it, what would be the minimum size to do parking on both sides. So
On both sides,
it
okay.
does meet the minimum. It's not the ideal, but it does meet the minimum. Hence, the preference would be one side.
Yeah, because even on one side, it's pretty narrow. If both sides, you'd almost have to stop and let somebody else go through.
Yeah.
And just so if anybody else has a question, it's like, we're 32 feet, right? And the standard in Minnesota is 30 for a standard city road to have parking on both sides. So yeah, that is snug. And that would be, I don't know, that's from the internet.
It's a little light.
So yeah, it makes sense if you're having trucks, they say to beef it up another foot, the lanes, so that there's more room for parking. But if it's just one-sided, then that allows the trucks comfort and people getting in and out of their cars, the comfort of.
If we decide to go parking, I know that's a later date, but will that get striped, painted, a solid white line, whatever side that is, or is it gonna just be?
It's optional. Oftentimes you would not do that, but
I think it's hard to wrap our mind around that this street has changed to a city street. You know, because on our, you know, on our street, there's not,
Signs.
I mean, there could be a sign that says parking on this side only, but that wouldn't be lined, I wouldn't think. You know, yeah.
Any more public comments?
I'd like to say just Kristen Donovan, 320 Jefferson Drive. Just on the issue of parking, we relied on parking on our street, particularly in my house. We have a very narrow lot. It's driveway, little patch of grass, house. We cannot get two widths of cars in our driveway. So I work days, my husband works evenings. Every morning I have to get up, thaw out both cars, pull his car out, pull my car out, pull his car back in, and then I can leave for work. So without any street parking, there's nowhere for me to pull out. And the second issue for me is my second job is teaching piano lessons at my house. In fact, I've taught a couple of the council members kids piano over the years, and my students are back to back. Somebody is arriving, somebody is leaving. If there's nowhere for them to park, one can be in my driveway, where's the other one supposed to be? So I would really appreciate at least one side parking for our area of Jefferson.
I think that's what I'm hearing, that you want us to hurry up with it.
Yes, especially in the winter.
I hear that.
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, I hear that.
We're having guests.
So
We
that's my 2 cents.
get
So that-
everything done and get it on the next.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm Paul Tishon. I'm 300 Jefferson Drive, next door neighbor to Kristen. I think the same thing is that we were kind of led that there was going to be parking on the street. If I'd known that there was not going to be parking, I would have made my driveway bigger, just so that I could get the same problem that person's having, is that I'd have it bigger, but I was with the understanding that what I'd have would be sufficient because there's going to be parking on the street. And we did not know that this parking thing was going to be something that, it was not presented to us in the early meetings that it was going to be, that there was concern. We were understanding that the road was going to be wider, it would allow for parking. And so that kind of went into our construction plan of our driveways and stuff like that. So we're kind of like, we would have designed it differently had we known that this was going to happen, but we didn't, and we did the best we could with the information we had, but we made a decision on our driveway based on that there was going to be parking in the street. So I would just like to say is that I agree that it does get a little bit tighter, and if it does slow down traffic, I think it's better than a speed bump. I think it's better than stop signs. And there is just nothing that's going to stop people already that are zooming down from Fifth Street all the way down. There's no traffic controls, and so they're hitting at a good clip already past the house. So if by me parking on the street is actually going to slow traffic down, I would just park my car out there all the time to slow traffic down. So that's what we're seeing as just homeowners in the past couple of weeks here.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm Monica Capra, and I'm at 300 Jefferson Drive. I want to talk about the truck route because I have some real safety concerns about the truck route. We have a brand new bike path. We don't know how much it's going to get used yet because the road is brand new, bike path's brand new. We don't know how much that road is going to be used. We have people, if you access the bike path, you have to cross Jefferson Drive. Anybody coming up 3rd Street has to cross, and they cross every day. I see people crossing the street every day to get access to that bike path. When trucks are zooming down Jefferson, I know that they cannot stop on a dime. This is a residential area. These kids here, they live there. These are the kids that are affected by this truck route. Those trucks cannot stop. on a dime, especially in an emergency braking situation. And then we are gonna have, who knows, how many people on the bike path and how many people crossing the bike path just to get there. So safety is my very first concern with the truck route. My second concern is the noise. And yeah, it's much better, but the windows still rattle. The house still shakes when those big trucks come by. When they come by in the summer, you have to stop talking on the phone because you can't hear. Or people on the other end of the phone can hear the trucks coming by. And it starts early in the morning by 6 a.m., sometimes earlier, and it goes past 10 o'clock at night. Living right there on Jefferson, I hear it every single day. And I don't know how many of you live near that where you experience that, but it's not fun. But safety is my first concern. It really is. And I think that I think you're gonna put people at risk. Anybody who uses that bike path is gonna be at risk. I think that more people are gonna use it because it's a really nice path. It's really nice. And I think more people will use it. I think it's very, very, very premature to jump into a truck route at this point where we don't have enough information. We don't know how many trucks, how will be impacted, how many trucks does it actually mean coming through there? There's a ton that come through right now. How many more are gonna come through if we open it up as a truck route? We need to figure out how many people are gonna be using the path. Figure out how fast those trucks are moving. Those trucks they're moving. They are really moving. So I think there's just more that needs to go into it as far as a study on how many trucks we're talking about, how fast they go, how many people are using the path. So I think we just need to slow down and really consider everything before we jump into a bike or a truck route. Thank you.
Heidi Klausman, 340 Jefferson Drive, neighbors, a couple dollars down. I really want to echo what Monica said. The road has been open a month, and we're now a month later talking about let's create a truck route on this road. You literally just had, ceremony opening up the path. And we haven't really talked about any of this stuff. And I wish my husband was here because he talks so much better in front of people. But it kind of feels like a little bit of a bait and switch here because we went to one of these meetings when we were talking about the Jefferson Drive project and we were told this is not going to be a truck route. I feel like that was said to us. This will not become a truck route. And now it's a month later and we're having this conversation. And we're all sitting here talking about this. So yes, let's see how many trucks this is going to be. Let's see how the safety concerns, how fast these cars are going, all this stuff before we just barrel through and make these decisions so quickly. Thank you.
I'd say, great comments. I don't recall that we ever said this would not be a truck route. We built the road as a 10-ton road with a width. It was always something that could happen. We didn't know. We still don't know. That's a council decision. So it was one of those things, as was parking or no parking. Was always a consideration one way or the other. And I already said we decided during design to keep it the way it was because there was never any parking on Jefferson. So we thought, well, let's just keep it that way for now. We don't have studies on that yet either, on how much traffic and what parking will do there, and not, but we think, I would be my recommendation to go parking on one side, as it is my recommendation to get the trucks in and out of town in a quick, efficient manner. But
how many trucks are using it now anyway?
That's a great question. Monica's exactly right.
That's what I'm wondering. I think most of them are.
Maybe Bill, do you know?
So we talked to Comcast and DFA to get numbers. Again, we haven't done an actual study because in order to do an actual study, you put cameras up, but it was estimated less than 100 trucks per day when we talk to Comcast and DFA. Now, does that change when it opens, to be determined, but less than 100 trucks per day would not change anything as far as that. That's considered a low amount of trucks in the grand scheme of how many cars use that per day.
And 100 a day, that would be the total trucks, not just the ones that would be coming up this route. Because some of them do go down.
If they're
first.
headed north on 52, they go up that way.
Less than 100 trucks per day on this section of Jefferson is what the estimate was.
So that'd be a total if they all went that way.
Any more public comment? I will close the public portion of Jefferson Truck Route. We will jump to 8A, the new business act on Jefferson Truck Route ordinance. And then
Right back into it, yep.
council's questions, concerns, ideas, motions.
It's a hard decision to make because I feel for their concerns because they're valid. However, we have the same concerns on Main Street with pedestrians and
Speeding and traffic.
Right, and traffic and almost getting run over every time you try to cross Jefferson. I don't know, I don't know what the best thing to do is, so.
Is there a cost to doing like what Monica said, try to do some sort of survey on how many trucks are actually using it? Or a time frame, like she said, maybe get into spring and see, is the trail being used way more than what it was prior to the change on Jefferson? I don't know.
Bill?
There would be a cost if you did an engineering study, but, and I always got to be careful how much opinion to give, but it would almost certainly show up that the volume of trucks would not be high enough to change the designation, okay? Meaning if you do a study, you're still going to end up here that the recommendation would be to make it a truck route. So there's not going to, and if we had a high enough, if the traffic counts, pedestrian traffic counts were high enough, then it would be to add a stop sign. But as of right now, we would not fit those warrants to do that. But that's the incremental part. The stop sign part of this could change.
So couple thoughts. Actually, a fully loaded heavy truck stops faster than a car in normal driving situations because of the heavy load on the brakes. And in order to have a CDL, be a commercial driver, you have to pass a pretty rigorous testing procedure. And included in that is the awareness of your surroundings. And especially on that route, that stretch of road that we're talking about here, it's wide open visibility now, especially with an elevated walking path where we used to have an same grade for that walking path. It was horrible, used it all the time, but that was at grade, super easy for someone to get launched off of that horrible road into somebody. Now we have a nice road, elevated off the curb, walking path off to the side. Those dangers have been hugely mitigated now for the percentage of people that would be actively on the road as far as like crosswalks and things. There's more visibility, there's better seeing, far more than downtown. And that's one of the considerations is these trucks have to get out of town. There's only currently one legal route for them. And that puts a lot of, you experience this crossing Main Street all the time. And we currently have some things in the work for that. But turning this stretch into a truck route would actually prevent a lot of that traffic from going downtown, put them on a route where there's better visibility, better ability to stop. It makes more sense to put them on the safer route out of town versus on the main street.
I guess my other question would be for Mr. Callahan too, as far as patrolling that, with more trucks going down that route, making sure that speeds are under control. Is that possible, not possible?
Well, ultimately, a lot of trucks use what you're proposing as a new truck route anyway. And from our standpoint, we see this as a better option also because it is alleviating a lot of congestion. Trucks cause more congestion. I know that when they're trying to access Main Street to get off of First, it causes a lot of congestion. And well, just like Kevin pointed out, I fully agree that the improvements that have been made there are actually with safety in mind. I don't think we see so many trucks speeding in town. We see obviously more passenger cars doing that. Rarely have we had truckers violating traffic laws. It does happen, but it's rare because, I mean, they're also held to a higher standard for their classification. And they're not really willing to risk losing that or having an action taken against their license. It's highly important. So often when we deal with Class A drivers with some sort of traffic infraction, even a speeding ticket, that can affect their ability to continue to drive, and that might be their livelihood. So they would often challenge that, even if they're dead wrong, they're going to challenge it in court as a last-ditch effort, hopefully get some sort of, agreement that would, keep it off of the record. But ultimately, I mean, it makes sense to me in this proposal to because this is mostly your traffic that's leaving the city, not coming into the city for this truck traffic. Because they typically, when they're going down to North Star Drive, they're taking 52 all the way down to 68, and they're turning there to get into EFA or Comcast. So that, I don't ever see that changing because that route is much easier for them, whether they're going north or south already. So. I should add to, this is something that I can understand how this, you can perceive this being a problem. It's the same thing when we do traffic surveys for speeding. From the perception of someone standing and seeing vehicles that appear to be speeding, it does look like they may be based on where you're standing. And it's my understanding, and I'm not a mathematician, but there's math involved, cosine effect and things like that. When we've done the actual radar surveys, that actually changes that. We would see actually a lower average than what's perceived. And so I understand from, the homeowner's perspective that this looks like this could be a safety issue, but I think in reality, the safety issue is part of the design, and it actually makes a better, it's a better decision in that sense. So if that helps. I know that might be something to agree to disagree on, but that's been our experience in this field.
So I guess I'm hearing from people who understand roads and safety and,
Design.
better than I do, that it is something that we should do. Change is hard, and we've had a lot of change on that road, so it's, yeah.
The speed limit there is still just a standard city road, right?
Yeah, standard road, standard 30 miles an hour. Yep.
The signs went up on that as well.
Yep.
If I could just real quick, Patrick Tishon, actually, planning on moving to 300 Jefferson Drive. I think just the issue with the safety is I think we understand that the roads are better, and I think that that's great that this is going to really help the safety. I think that more of the issue comes with like if we have an increased amount of trucks on the road. If you look like a hood size of a car, if it's like 40 inches or greater, now we're talking about 44% increase in fatalities. And that's just like an increase of trucks would just be like if there was going to be an accident, we're looking at it being a more serious one in that case. I think that's maybe part of the reason of the safety concerns more than like we see all the good of the road, but then we see like if there's some sort of something that does happen, then we're looking at just an increased number of vehicles, weight, all that stuff. And it just, I think maybe that's more of a piece of we don't look at the roads and say like, that's not the issue that we're having. I think it's more with the bigger size of the vehicles coming through, so.
Even notice an increase, because I think they're all using it anyway, but. I
Nobody make a motion.
don't know.
I see it in a couple of different ways. I agree with everybody. I think I agree with a lot of the public comments. That is a new road. Why change something right now? I think if nothing else, let's revisit late summer, or late spring, early summer to see what it is like. What is the foot traffic on the pass? I do think we need to address the parking. But I also agree with Sarah. I think it's being used. I'm on Casey's and First Street and Main Street a lot. It's a nightmare when I'm hauling my trucks and trailers to try to get out, and I got a semi or two at 7:30 in the morning or 4:30 at night for an hour, hour and a half. So using that Jefferson to 5th to 60, if we can alleviate 5 semis or 10 more semis to get them out of town, I think that's going to protect our downtown, our businesses, our patrons, our pedestrians down there. Because I know 7 years on council, we've always had to talk about more flashing lights, stop signs, stop lights. It's been a constant battle for the 7 years I've been here. So I think it's important with the new road that we get the trucks out of town. I just don't know what it's going to affect it today, if any. So, I mean, my opinion is if we made it a truck route today, if we don't make it today, I'll probably make it in 6 months.
We're gonna make it anyway, I think is what's gonna happen. What about this? We make it one today and we relook at it in 6 months and see have you guys come back and say, what do you think about this? What's happened? Is that something that sounds fair? Then we'll know. Have more.
How easy is it to make it a truck route today and then take that truck route away?
It's an ordinance. We can rewrite ordinances.
They're going that way anyway, so nothing really gonna change for the reality of it.
And we notify the businesses when the truck rates, DFA, Comcast, and hey, truck routes are here, so they have it posted out there.
The difference would be if we went back the other way, then it would be active enforcement.
Right.
You know, we would say, all right, you gotta get out there and stop every one of them and tell them this is not a truck route. We deemed it not safe for whatever reason, and we're gonna have to enforce it actively and send them all down a different route.
And I think we also need to address the parking on Jefferson, because I mean, I understand that. I
think we'll
understand
do
the
that by next-
studies.
well,
I
by
think
next
in next
meeting, you'll
council,
have
I think we need to address that if we can have some more studies and more talk about what side and stuff like that.
Yep, I'll work with Bill and Mike and we'll have a recommendation on that next council meeting.
Because I think,
And
I
Sarah
agree.
and Bob.
And I think it'll agree that it will slow them down, because right now, I mean, it's a raceway. And it's the vehicles, it's the kids usually, That is, but that's anywhere in town. I mean, we deal with it on East Avenue, we deal with it on West Avenue, so, but that's a different topic for a different day. Back to the truck route.
Is that something we want to just maybe wait with another month and do that with the parking at the same time? Or is it just gonna be an amendment?
Well, the truck route's an ordinance, the parking is just a decision.
Parking is what?
Parking is just a council decision on.
Yeah, well, we can make that next meeting.
So we don't need a public hearing for parking, we just,
I don't know, I don't see any other way around it, quite honestly. And they're already driving on it anyway, so I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-04. And then maybe make a note, Brian, that in 6 months, let's revisit and really get some input from everyone and see, if it's horrible, we want to know about it.
Okay.
And then we can always change it.
and I also too, for the chief, I would just have the officers watch it. If they notice anything different or more or less speed, just for their input too, just for their aware of it, that it changed and what has the change been, if any. Any further discussions?
I guess the other thing, and I don't know exactly how to do this, is also just keep in mind on how that's alleviating the traffic downtown. I think that would be a good thing to know too. At least to see all this down there and helping that.
Well, you can be able to see.
Yeah, I mean, and I know four of us, I know Kevin works out of town a lot, but he's in town, but I know us four are in town a lot and see Jefferson, see First Avenue and see the congestion there. And I watch that stuff, just like the crossings on 4th Street and 5th Street that we keep an eye on that, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks for all your comments, and we'll address the parking at next council. 8B, Jefferson pay request number 9. Bill.
In your packet is pay request number 9. Sorry, I'm scrolling it. This is it's not our last pay request, but it's our last big pay request. So the recommendation is to approve payment to Schumacher Excavating for $779,000. Big one. This is primarily the paving, and it's all the work that's really occurred last month. So paving, a lot of paving items in there, also the sod and items with that. So this brings us basically to completion. We will have what's called retainage on contracts. We will hold 5% till its final acceptance. There'll be some things that we'll work on next spring, but this basically brings the project to completion. So recommendation is to approve this. Embedded in this is a change order, which is your next item on the agenda as well. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Knock on wood, we will finish under budget. The knock on wood part is we know every year in the spring that some sod will die. That is normal, and we will have to redo some of that. And there'll be some other things that'll be, there's always some small things after you go through 6 months, but there will be sod that will die. So it's inevitable.
You were saying that the change request, is that included in the pay request number 9?
It is, correct.
Can you explain the change order then? Can we do this together? Or?
Sure, yep. So the first 3 items are, I'm going to call MnDOT technicality items related to the mix design. So the mixes are all slightly different. On a normal city project, we would not change order that, but due to state auditing, we have to change that. So that's a slight deviation of the oil that was used in the pavement. Okay, so that's the first part of it. The second part is we are sealing some additional catch basins. So there was some existing ones there, and this was partly done as a request of the Public Works Department, also portion because we still have some budget remaining. So this was a way to get some extra work done on the project.
So with the oil, going back to the first one, the oil that was in the pavement, why was it changed? And why was it?
Could you go see what that lady wants you to walk?
Because the contractor through the part of the construction, the mix design changed and they started using it.
There's somebody in the office. Thank you. You walk back towards your office.
Oil mixes are routinely changed, all the time. So this is the DOT does, and then there's different versions. So this is
They change it on you after the bid process has been out.
yes, correct. And it's a no price, it's a no cost change, but we have to document it to satisfy the state.
And we want to do them separate motions.
Yeah.
I think that was the other question.
So should we jump and do the change order first and then go to the final one second? Or does it matter?
I mean, technically, you'd probably be right, because otherwise you're approving the pay request and yes.
And not the change order first? Yeah, so let's. Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 500. Thanks, Bill. 8B.
I'll make a motion to approve pay request number 9.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 500. Great project, looks great. I think we're under budget, so it's even better.
Knock on wood on that one.
Thanks, Bill. Let's jump down to 8D, 2023 Scallon Merch and Associates Audit Engagement Letter. Brian.
Yep, pretty much same letter, same engagement letter we look to approve every year. They continue to do a good job for us, so just looking for approval to move forward with Scanlon Merch and Associates for our audit.
The price change on that all? Everything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 audit engagement letter from Scanlon Merch and Associates.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 500. Thanks, Brian. 8E, LMCIT coverage waiver form. Brian.
Yep, that's another one we do every year. LMCIT requests that the city takes into consideration waiving the statutory limits of liability for insurance reasons. Every year we've said, no, we don't want to waive that. And that's didn't change this year. We're asking you to not waive the liability limits.
I'll make that motion. I don't want to repeat it, but I'll do it.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 500. Let's jump to 8F Fire Board funding discussion. Brian.
Yes. With Todd's help and Kim's help. And okay, so I kind of wanted to go through a little summary of where we've been. There's so much background on this, it's hard to share everything, and we've shared along the way some. But we've been talking about this for over 3 years. When I became the administrator, I started asking some questions, and that turned into, well, let's redo the whole thing. Right now, we have a very sophisticated matrix that takes into account a whole bunch of different factors and really levels things out. We ended up at 49% is what we pay now. Based on that matrix, which was approved, how many years ago?
I believe it was approved in 2014.
Yeah, approved in 2014.
I think it might be even 2013. It's been 10 years.
Yeah, with the support of all the townships. And then since then, we have basically said we're just going to keep with it for now, but we'll keep looking at the matrix and the funding. And so we went a long time talking about that. And finally, Zumbrota Township came in and said, well, we think it should be a per capita charge, which would put Zumbrota at 69% of the cost, or 70%? 76%. That was the per capita, was 76% of the cost. To which we said, well, no, if we did that, it would have to be a Zumbrota Fire Department. It makes no sense for one entity to pay that much.
We also discussed the fact that ambulance service per capita makes total sense. One person gets hurt, 2 people get hurt, they are per capita. Fire coverage does not rely on a person, it relies on buildings and property. So per capita does not make sense to charge for it. So then we started doing a lot more research.
At the request of the townships, Kim did an incredible amount of research and numbers and fact checking, and we kept bringing back proposals that they asked for. They asked what, and if we brought back a few things that we said, we would talk to the council about. At one point, the Zumbrota Township then brought a letter from their attorney, which kicked in for a grievance, which kicked in a 90-day rule that we needed to take care of it within 90 days. Zumbrota Township extended that based on, we were bringing back numbers for them and talking about it. And then during the October 26th meeting, Zumbrota Township presented a plan where the city would pay 69% and township split the remaining 31%. And I'm just going to read this out of the fire board minutes. When asked how they came to those numbers or figures, it was stated they used per capita for the city part and a mix of figures to split up I'm assuming for the township portion. Is that correct, Kim? So still 69%, which I believe we brought back here at one point, which was a no, we're not going to do that. For the November 21st meeting, then Mineola Township presented a proposal that you see in your packet tonight. Let's see. In this proposal, the city would pay 57%. The remaining 43% would be split by the township. So they're coming down. And for history, past administration and councils were adamant that Zumbrota will not pay more than 50% without having a majority vote or being a Zumbrota Fire Department. Not to say we need to stick with that or stay with that, but that was a desire when the current contract was set up. The reality of it is, though, that there were some undocumented things that we've been paying for, kind of a handshake deal in there, if you will. And that's what I started asking about when I came on as administrator. And those things were plowing, mowing, building maintenance, and Kim's time to do all the book work. And we determined that was at their request, township's request, we determined that cost was right about $12,000 a year, which put us at roughly 54%, give or take.
A little bit.
Initially, we anticipated that it would be about 20,000. That's what bring us to the 57%, which I believe is what Mineola Township grabbed onto for a percentage rate when they were talking to try and find something that we had done in the past that we were talking about.
Numbers just picked out 57%?
Well, we had said that if you put $20,000 on the dues we're paying, we're really paying 57%.
Right, but there was no real mathematical.
Yeah, can you explain at all Riley's numbers? Riley's, we got a matrix here, this one.
Can you pull that up if you haven't? Well, basically what it is that, well, thank you, James. The townships have always been very adamant. They do not want their matrix point based on land value because that brings their value up quite a bit. So we have always done a matrix with land area, which still weighs them more because of course we have less land area in town. So they've always wanted that land area out. So anyhow, when we went through this and looked at all that, they decided that they were going to do 50% building value. This was the Mineola proposal. 50% building value, 50% land area. So basically, Zumbrota's paying 57%, period. So you take the remaining 43% and you do a weighted average on it. And then you lay it out to how many percent they pay of that, the portion of that 43%. So you can see up on that sheet, it brings it down. You have Mineola Township paying 14.99%, Pine Island paying 7.07%, Roscoe paying 8.58%, and Zumbrota Township paying 12.36%. So of course, it's a reduction in all the townships' dues. We've always run into some sticking points. We budget for capital equipment. So every year, part of our dues go to our capital equipment fund so that we can buy equipment. It's always been a difficult issue. So to bring that money in all at once, you have to bring it all in, your 200,000. And as equipment keeps rising, it's been an issue. So we build that into our budgets. We are always told that their dues are cheaper at other fire districts. I think if they calculated in the amount that they're already setting aside, but not in their fire budget, but they got it's in their savings account for the township, I would probably say it's roughly the same, just from my I don't know all the information, but just from calculations. Also, if we bring in large scoops of money from every year or the years that we bring equipment, that triggers an audit. So that's an additional $5,000 expense every time we would bring in money for equipment. So if we had 3 years of bringing in $200,000 for equipment, if we did not save for it, we'd get an audit each of those years. So, but anyhow, they wanted to go strictly with building value and land area for their percentage points. Former Mayor Bauer came in last week and we were just discussing it. And one of his things he talked about was, well, let's just look at building value, land value, just do it strictly on that 50-50, 50% building value, 50% land value. If you do that, the city of Zumbrota is at 50%. The townships are at 50%, are right around 50%. So the original matrix was set up at 49% because the city adamantly said, if we pay over 50%, we want majority votes, or we want to be in charge of the fire department. And so that 49.23%, I believe it is, was they massaged numbers to come up with that. And the townships actually made the motions and the seconds on it, but they say now that they did not, or certain townships do. So the whole thing is a fair on what to do for this, and that's kind of up to whatever you guys decide is what you want to do. So right now, the way it sits, almost all decisions are unanimous. We did have at the meeting before this last one in November, I believe it was in October, they voted to raise our percentages per the proposal put out by Zumbrota Township.
Yep.
Where we would be 69%, and they voted on it and the vote was 5-1. And then they said, well, it'll pass. And we're like, no, it has to be unanimous. So then they directed the chair to contact the original legal consultant for this and ask if, yeah, can we do this? And the legal consultant came back and said, no, it has to be unanimous.
It's spelled out very well in there. That has to be unanimous for that.
So if we cannot agree on this, according to what we heard at the last meeting, they will want to go to mediation.
Per the contract, that's the next step.
Which is $500 an hour, and you're figuring at probably $15,000.
Yep, I called Corey and Rupi today and talked to them. And they said, yeah, $500 an hour.
Who pays for the mediation?
Fire board.
It would have to come out of the budget somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only so much money there. Something we'll have to give.
So in this proposal, they say it gives the city 2 votes. What's voted on as far as?
That's not
There's
budget.
it's all unanimous, so there's nothing really to the 2 votes.
Does it benefit?
No, it would have to be like any other organization. If we pay over 50%, we would need the majority of the votes. Now, you can't find any agreements like they're proposing out there anywhere. They don't exist for good reason. The local, Pine Island, Wanamingo, they pay right about, well, Pine Island splits at 50-50. Wanamingo's a little more, and they're not sure where their number came from. It's like
54%, I
their
believe is Wanamingo.
city pays 54, but they have full control of the budget and all of that, which makes sense. If you're a majority owner or paying the majority, you should have full control. So that's kind of where the group that we've been, Todd and I, and we're kind of leaning that way.
And they do have a budget committee with the townships, don't
They do, yeah.
With
Oh, it's
Wanamingo. So
collaborative.
not
It's collaborative. No, it's
them.
collaborative.
It's a collaborative effort.
But is, it's set up with, and we looked and we tried to find anything that would resemble what's been proposed, and it doesn't exist. And I think it's pretty obvious why.
Could I make a comment, Brian? Nothing to do with the matrices or anything, that's whatever. The biggest issue, I'm on the Zumbrota Township board. I have not been in any fire board meetings, but I'm on the town board. The biggest issue that I see is that the fire department gave up charitable gambling a number of years ago. And the budget just keeps going up and up and up.
Yep.
And that's the whole issue, is it's expensive. It's expensive for everybody, no matter how it gets split. So my thought, and I don't know if it's ever been brought up in a meeting, there needs to be a different way revenue. And just quit passing the buck around and complaining it costs too much. And like I say, I haven't been to a fire board meeting, but I don't think that's even a discussion. So.
The lost revenue?
Was
Yeah.
it the lost revenue from the charitable gambling?
Yes,
It was not profitable.
Back then.
Absolutely.
back then.
Back when we got out of it a few years ago,
Okay.
we were making about $2,000 by the end of the year.
Because neighboring departments are making a killing.
Some are, yes. Between the Cover Bridge and at the liquor store, it was not making it.
Okay, see,
It absolutely was not. When I got on the fire department 17 years ago, it had already started coming down, and year after year, the money just wasn't there.
but it's still to my point that it's not a budget issue, it's a revenue issue. You know, is there something else that can be done instead of just passing the buck around? You know, they're doing the spaghetti dinner now, great. Is there, and I'm on other boards too, FFL, and it's all the same. How do we generate funds? And this, I don't envy you guys at all to make this decision. It is, that's all I hear. That's our meeting. It's 25 minutes of why this is wrong and we can't afford it. It's terrible.
Yeah, and oh, God, I lost my train of thought. No, it's a good point about the fire budget, because I asked that question too. I said, well, either the fire budget is out of whack or something else, if you're paying so much less in other places. And a lot of it is the charitable gambling. And some of it's the capital that they don't take into account in the other places. They, you know, to me, I don't see the wisdom of taking a bond to buy a piece of equipment later when you could be saving for it along the way with this capital plan that we have. I think it makes perfect sense. So those are the two biggest factors. But the fire budget is right on with everybody else's. So they're not spending extra money or things like that. You know, they're wonderful. But
But I do know Wanamingo will be one that I can actually speak to, because they sent us their budget and their proposal of what they think charitable gambling is going to be doing for the Wanamingo Fire Department. It's decreased substantially, and they've actually written it out of their budget.
is that with the new law? That you can't do that new law?
It will change.
Yeah.
It's significant.
So yeah, I agree. I don't know how you fix the revenue stream for it. Again, they have limited ways to do revenue. You will find that with fire departments, the insurance companies don't even want to pay for a per service call. When you go out, you tend to get a lot of, well, what code is this? How does this do? You know what? We're rural fire departments. We have somebody billing for us. We don't have medical codes. It's a little different than the ambulance. They have a much better structure. I'm not saying they make a ton of money. They don't. But they have the medical structure to fall back on. We have nothing like that. And we don't have the statutory authority to, you know, charge that kind of thing. Just the workers' comp alone for the fire department is horrendous. It's $20,000. Just, that's almost, you know, 20% of the budget.
When we talked about this, when this all first came up, I remember having discussions about that, you know, because of rising costs, because of all the things, that we might have to merge fire departments and have a central fire department and
Fire district, right?
a district,
Yep.
yes. And I don't know, maybe it's time to start talking about that. I know the towns are not gonna like it, and I understand, but for the taxpayer costs, I mean, like you said, that's your whole meeting talking about it.
Right, you can
And
limit the
there's
big
no more,
equipment that
we
way.
can't keep taxing people, you know? And there are still fires, of course we need it. I'm not trying to diminish it at all, but there are less fires than it was, you know, 50 years
Because the
ago.
codes are different, electrical
codes, better-
codes, yeah.
Better equipment, which in turn
Better equipment.
costs more
better-
money.
Yes.
It's a very wicked cycle.
But the equipment costs now are just.
Well, turnout gear is almost $100,000 for the fire, right around there, about 2,000 to 3,000 per firefighter, 32 firefighters, 30. So there's $90,000 in turnout gear.
And we
So-
have better roads, we have better equipment to get to places. I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer to it, but it's.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. We've been around and around, like you said. It's been, yeah, round and around. You know, my thoughts are we either, and our number one proposal is let's just stay the way we are. We've got the matrix, been working, it's been there. roll in the extra dollars, just so they're not just unspoken for dollars. And continue with our percentages.
When you say roll in the dollars, what do you?
Well, the unaccounted for dollars that the building maintenance, the plowing, all of that stuff, Kim's time, in reality, we're going to ask that the fire board hire their own accountant who's not our finance director, because I keep the finance director pretty busy with our stuff. And it does take quite a bit of time with the fire stuff. And Kim's really good at it. So there'll be a transition. She agreed to do it for another year for sure on a transition. But, that's been our number one proposal is let's stay with what we've got. And there was some feeling of that from the other townships too, because it was so hard to get there, what they had, or what they got to with this matrix. And it takes into account a whole bunch of things, rather than just the things that benefit a certain part of the group. Or a Zumbrota Fire Department. Maybe it's time to move to a Zumbrota Fire Department, and then, I've talked to the area administrators and they just bill back. Of course, it's collaborative, the budgeting process and all that. It's all a collaborative thing, but, I don't want to go here again anytime soon, once we come to a decision, so.
You can't, if the decision is unanimous, if nothing's decided on, does it just continue with the current matrix or?
Well, it does for now, but we'll go to mediation, which is mediation, and suppose it's non-binding, right?
Because we're actually working on the 2025.
Yeah, we may not agree coming out of mediation, then it goes to court.
Which is just gonna take money from the fire
Fire.
department.
Yeah. Yep, it's got to come out of the budget somewhere.
Or they could agree to assess additional charges to each member.
True. Yep.
They may or may not, which I would not authorize. I mean, you guys would have that option as well, so you would.
So
And again,
as-
there's no decision here tonight. It's just kind of direction for
Getting your
Bob, or
opinion.
Todd and I to take back.
Because when is that next, the 19th?
The 21st, I believe.
I mean, my opinion is if they want us to pay more than 50%, then it's going to become a Zumbrota Fire Department.
Can't be the 21st.
Okay.
It's the 14th. What?
Oh, not the 21st, that's our.
Yeah, it's council. I have it on the 14th is when I have it, Thursday.
Didn't bring my phone.
But that's my opinion.
Something else.
What was that? Sorry, we were.
That if it's gonna be above 50%, then it's gonna become a Zumbrota Fire Department. With collaboration like Wanamingo is.
Has that been mentioned?
They
Like in case
asked-
you're gonna force us to go above 50%?
Well,
They started at 69%.
Yeah, so they asked for the numbers. They asked us, because we had mentioned that, well, it could be a Zumbrota Fire Department. If we're over a level, it'll be a Zumbrota. And so they asked for those numbers. So what we did was took the local one that's working, Wanamingo, and said, okay, here you go. We'll just fold our entity into Wanamingo, and this is how it would shake out. And that it wasn't received real well.
Well, and I did a blended matrix too, because I knew that per capita was pretty important to the townships. And I also knew that they did not want land value in there. So I kind of figured out a kind of a blended thing where we did a portion of the budget, the non-equipment purchases, we did that on a per capita basis. And then the equipment purchase part of it, we did on a weighted metric. And did not try, came out at 54%. Got the Wanamingo model, looked at it, 54%. And again, that stuff's based on tax capacity. So it's based on value of properties. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. But I like the fact with the per capita that, as we all know, that, if the city grows and there's land annexed into the city and our population grows, as our population grows, then that per capita would actually bring up the dollar amount. Because, for example, if Zumbrota Township lost residents and they came into the city, then they would pay less because there'd be some per capita portion on it. So I know Riley mentioned that from Mineola Township, that he saw that could change with time and we would have to set that up. But it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot for people to wrap their head around.
The only agreement we could find that that a city was paying more than 50% was the Wanamingo, but they have full control. It's a Wanamingo Fire Department.
Pine Island's a little different because they have a different setup with their equipment. The city has a port, the township has a part, the townships own like a tanker. There's some other.
Some of the equipment.
Yeah, it's set up a little bit
But
different.
Pine Island still has, they built back 50% of everything, is what I was told.
Plus but they also have gambling too, which makes their budget a lot easier but their budget's
For
also
now.
bigger than ours.
For now, evidently there might be a gap in all of these pretty soon if the gambling starts to go back down.
I mean, in the way I look at it, we're already paying 54% because of Kim's time, the maintenance on the building, the lawn mowing and the snow. I'm okay at 54% and leaving where everything that's at. But if we go at 57, what they want, then it's gotta be, I mean, it's been a nightmare dealing with this the last 3-4 months. I know Bob sat in it with me one time because I couldn't make it. I'd rather just keep it where it's at. We'll pay the 54%, throw everything in there and leave it. Once we get over the 57%, I think we need to revisit that issue on different avenues.
Well, I think you need to have a firm number. What is the number that you will not go above before?
I just 54%.
Is that 2 votes as well?
But it don't benefit us to have.
It doesn't matter, but it's
I mean,
symbolic.
the vote, yeah, if we get 2 votes and it's unanimous, and it doesn't have to be unanimous, I'd go to 54%. Or 57%, I mean, if we got 2 votes and it doesn't have to be unanimous.
Well, no,
you do not want to do
you
that.
need a majority.
Oh my
For a
God.
majority, I mean, that's what, yeah.
Not 2,
Yeah,
you need a majority of the votes at that point.
Want to go that
Yeah,
way,
yeah, I
because
said
they will
it.
always vote against you.
Yeah.
When you get into more votes, then you run into quorum issues. Because you'd have to have more, like say you went to a 10-person voting panel and we had to have 5, that's all of you. You know, so it gets problematic for quorum issues.
But I think you have to have set numbers that you are talking about and that you won't.
For sure. We have to bring back one of the proposals. If we're going to say, okay, we'll go, if anything over 50%, we're out. It's going to be a Zumbrota Fire Department is our proposal.
And part of this discussion is getting your guys' input. What do you guys expect? What do you guys want? What do you think is fair?
Or if you want to go with what Todd said, which has some merits, but that we would follow that matrix, but keep in mind that 54% will grow. At some point, we're going to be paying more than that because the dynamics are going to shift. And so then we're going to be in an organization where
And that's fine, but we need
pay.
to put a number on that. So we get to 60%, then we are going to.
So then we're in an organization that we're paying 60% and we have 1 vote. And
I don't like it now that what business that you own 50% and you have the same amount of say as somebody that has 10, 15%.
4%.
I mean, I like sports. Let's talk about baseball. Let's talk about basketball team. The majority owner has all the say. Glenn Taylor, it's changed a little bit because of what they're doing, but the majority owner has all the say. The minorities don't. They collect their paycheck or pay their portion of the expenses and move on. And you're a business owner. I'm a business owner. Joan's a business owner. Bob's a business owner. And you might be the only owners, but if somebody else wanted to buy 10%, you're going to let them have the same amount of say as you do at 90? That's the problem I'm having.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, what business, what entity, what joint powers that somebody has 50% but has the same amount of say as, that's the problem. That's my biggest problem.
Thing is the only thing that has really saved us from some really terrible decisions because the 4 others would otherwise run right over it.
Yep. That's an important provision in there.
So but I
And
really
I get
want
it. Everyone's trying to look out for their taxpayers and I totally get that. But it just seems like some of them are being very unrealistic on what.
Yeah, I mean, what is the right number? We've got a really big matrix now that takes into all kinds of factors.
Right.
It's too complicated.
Or we're just going to go to we think Zumbrota should pay this much. Yes.
Takes many things into consideration.
Yep.
And it it allows for the expansion of the city and evens things out a little bit. I mean, but at least it's accounted for.
Yeah, so it's all in there, and I don't know, have we did recalculate that matrix, Kim, or we? The one we're under now, because that one recalculates, or possibly would recalculate, because it's land area, all that stuff, and if the township land area is decreasing and our land area is increasing, that theoretically should change the percentage.
Pretty small percentage that it's changed. We haven't annexed a huge.
Right.
Since that was done. So but we'd probably be closer to 50 instead of 49.23 or whatever
Yeah,
percentage it
you'd
is.
probably get closer to, 49.9%.
Or maybe 50. I mean, it could be. I'd have to run those. I'd have to run those.
That might be palatable.
It's a hard one.
Almost as hard as truck routes.
I'd rather do the truck route.
Not everybody's just trying to do the best they can for their taxpayers, and we understand. But, fact remains, we can't find another
What?
agreement where someone,
Like what you said,
what's that?
go back with like what proposed.
Do not give up unanimous voting.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
adamant.
Yeah, no, that was always gonna be there. That, the proposal is 57%, 2 votes
If we're,
for Zumbrota.
or if it's gonna be a Zumbrota Fire Department, that's different, but, yeah.
So if we said, okay, we'll do 54%, as long as everything else stays the same.
Too, that what the mini was, which I thought was pretty smart as far as setting budget, because we did have a pretty big budget increase one year that nobody wants to see that. But they were also talking like we do with some of our union contracts of basing the inflationary number on an index of some sort. That would be determined with consideration for the fact that if, say, fire trucks go up 82%, we might have to revisit a portion thereof.
Is that what Riley brought up?
Riley brought that up from Mineola. Yep.
good.
So, I mean, so I think that is a nice fact. I think that's a nice thing that we didn't take into consideration with the budget. We were just looking at the matrix numbers, not looking at the budget numbers.
So where are we at? We had, if we're over 50%? No,
Well, I mean, if
or
we're
at the
already paying
54?
54 now anyway, I guess we could keep that, but I'm just saying, it's, again, like, it just makes no sense to me that we're paying for most of it and then we're more than all the others and we still.
Yeah.
I get that, but like I said, we've already been paying 54% for how
No,
many
so
years?
that- I mean, I get that, that's fine.
Just because it hasn't been built in, and then when we started talking about these talks, we figured we got to talk about lawn that we're paying, we got to talk about snow that we're paying, we got to talk about the maintenance, and we got to talk about Kim's time.
It's going to be a 4.7% increase over what we're paying now, give or take. So it'll be some dollars. We'd be coming up a ways.
Because some of them costs don't affect us directly, because it's just Mike guys out there plowing it. We don't have a price, what it's costing us to do that.
If we had to do that and bill back, we would have to bid it, kind of like how,
Yeah.
and I don't know how we do it, but it'd be like we do with Countryside,
Right.
every time we plow you get charged X amount of dollars.
And that could even be worse than what we originally thought. I mean,
On a bad winter,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
so I mean, it's,
So 54%, that came from a matrix that took into account per capita and then a matrix, a funding matrix for capital equipment purchases. But that 54% under that model is going to grow.
and I'm still a strong believer.
Won't everybody's grow too?
Per capita, if we grow
So
per
theoretically,
capita
the
wise.
city is going to grow and city land area is going to grow with potential annexations. And so
Well, that's
ours
what
would
I'm
grow and the other ones would go down.
saying, we should come back and think of a number that we, as it expands, that then we have to make that decision to change it to the Zumbrota Fire Department.
Well, yeah, I mean, 54, I think is
And I'm
stretching
okay,
it.
And I'm still a firm believer, if I own 50% or more of a business,
I know,
why
but
is somebody, I mean, I have that, but
at this point now, though, you're gonna go back with the 54%, and that's okay right now. But at some point, as that grows, if we're gonna use that matrix, we're gonna have to make a decision.
once it gets to
Yeah.
57 or 60%, then we're gonna,
Right, what number can we live with?
I think the first thing to do is go back and recalculate the matrix that we have existing now and see where we would end up in there.
A looming deadline with the meeting. But, because we can't do it before council. I mean, we can't have a council, we wouldn't have another council meeting before we have a meeting with fire board, from what I'm anticipating.
True. But, yeah. And I wasn't asking for a motion tonight, should I be?
no, I don't
So
think
if
we
we're not
need a
doing a
motion.
motion, it's just direction on what to
Just trying to get council's input of what,
bring back, but, you know, I don't, it'd be hard to leave it open-ended or leave it so it grows too, because 54% is kind of the top number forever, without being a Zimbrota
No,
Fire
they
Department.
aren't, the numbers aren't looked at every year. We don't redo the matrix every year.
Well, that's the other thing we would look for.
5 year at least.
So you're in essence
I
pushing it
believe, I
down the
believe
road.
Riley had 5 years on that
Yes.
Mineola proposal. Yeah,
Yep.
so that you'd set your matrix now, you'd have a 5-year or whatever term agreement, at which time, because that's usually if you get, when the census comes out, that helps a lot too with the population.
Okay, let's move along.
Might give us time to study a district moving forward in that 5 years. Not that that would happen or should happen, but it'd be something to look at. All right. I think we have direction, Todd, do we? You understand?
do we?
54% for 5 years.
What'd you say about?
I like keeping it like what you said, keeping it at 54%, see it in 5 years, see what happens. I don't like the fact that I know there's a difference and we might spend a lot of money on mediation. Yes, I don't like that. I don't think that's right, but.
And then if we can't settle mediation, then it goes to arbitration.
Well, then it goes to a litigation, right? I think, I can't remember what else it says in there. The next step is going to court.
Yeah. I'm okay with 54, but I think once we go over 54, then we have to start looking at some different avenues.
I agree.
All right.
That work for you, Sarah? You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we've said like 4 times now. Come on.
Perfect. Let's go to 8G, new sweeper purchase. Mike?
Had a long day.
Yeah, so I got a quote for that new Elgin sweeper. We bought the new used one, was that back in October? And that thing is pretty old, so they're 9 months out on a sweeper. And the total price for this is $260, where are we at? $267. 267,081, and pretty basic warranty on the Elgin. The Elgin itself is 1 year on the engine, 2 years, and then on the water tank, it's a lifetime warranty on the water tank.
So we're proposing, we had a plow truck in the 2024 capital plan, and then a sweeper in the 2025. This would be swapping those. We do have a few extra dollars right there for the equipment for this year, so works out pretty well to do the sweeper this year instead of the plow truck. Mike and Larry looked extensively at used. And what they're finding is you can find used ones You can't find a good used one because if somebody's getting rid of it, it's not good anymore. There are also some OSHA requirements for dust in cabs now that the older used ones don't meet very well. The one we bought for $4,700 is, the guy showed me their mask after they operated that thing, and yeah, there's a lot of fines, a lot of dust in there. So ultimately, through talking through it, decided that probably buying new is the best bet. It's gonna take us through many, many years. This one was what, 30 years old, Mike? So if we can get a lot of years out of it, it's pretty good. Even though it's $267,000, if you can get a lot of years out of it, the last repair on the old one was gonna be $34,000, and we had repairs each year of, $8,000-$10,000 before that. So we were dumping money into a used one. So to go back to a used one would be a little scary. So anyway, that's Mike's proposal for a new sweeper.
Did you get any other bids, Mike, or?
That was the state bid.
Sorry?
That was the state bid. So we weren't gonna get any better.
Yeah, the state already handles the bidding.
Any other different brands or?
I mean, there's not a lot of sweepers out there.
The state already does all the, they went through that, so the state already does all the legwork of stuff, yeah. I think if we need the sweeper and we have to have it, and it's in his budget and he wants to swap it, then I'll make a motion that we buy it.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Mike. 8H cell wastewater treatment plant mixer. Mike.
At Justin Hall, mixer out there is pretty old. When they used to apply their own biosolids, which I don't know how many years ago that was now, but it was a long time ago. They used to have their own mixer. Now they just don't have the use for it, so they want to get rid
He'll pay for the
of it.
sweeper.
Yeah, no, that's different. But they need money there.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the sale of the biosolid mixer.
I'll second.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Mike. Let's jump to 8I 2024 rental equipment bid.
I go out and get quotes for every year. Second year in a row, I've only had one contractor come back with quotes. We advertise it in the paper, and so the prices went up about $5 to $10 an hour across the equipment. We typically only use the motor patrol and trucks for snow removal. That's about all we use. If we get in a bind, the prices are there for us to use on the equipment.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 rental equipment bid from Schumacher.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Mike, again. 8J, new police officer hired. Chief.
So we had an applicant for the police officer position. There's no reason not to offer the job to the subject. And so we're in the process of, we gave him a conditional offer pending his background, like physical. The background's underway. Officer Waller was able to get clearance to do that for us. And so he is working on that. He believes he'll have that done next week. And actually, we should have pretty much everything, if that's the case, by next week. Sometime next week we'll have it. It's a young man out of the New Prague area with some part-time police officer experience. So pleasant young gentleman, and we're looking forward to it. Just looking for your approval to proceed, and we'll see what happens here after we get final information.
Yeah, he was, I thought he was impressive for a young officer. He was level-headed, eager to learn, very respectful. Yeah, it was a good interview, I thought.
I'll make that motion to approve the hiring.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 500. Thanks, chief.
I'll have no report.
Perfect. Have a good night. 8K variance for a Cougar head sign at the D High School. Curtis.
Yes, the planning commission recommends approval of the variance that we had. We had a public meeting, I think it was on November 14th. You can see a picture of the Cougar head. The square footage of the Cougar head is actually 60 square feet, not 120. And it goes on the West Avenue side of the high school. And you can see where in the picture. So this variance would go towards go to La Crosse Sign Group, who is installing the sign.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 500. Thanks, Kurt. 8L, amend section 3, sub 3, 2, area of accessory buildings. Kurt.
So the planning commission, once again, had a public hearing with the whole city invited to recommend approval of amendment of section 3, subsection 3, part 2 by a vote of 500. And you can see the amendment would be for your sheds. And the amendment would say, let's see, zoning ordinance to provide that accessory buildings greater than 128 square feet in area, unless attached or made part of the principal structure, shall not be closer than 5 feet to the principal structure. So if you have a shed that is less than 128 square feet in area, you can put that anywhere in your yard. Anything over 128 feet has to be 5 feet from the principal structure. And you can only have 2 per yard with a principal structure in that yard. We spoke to a couple insurance agents about where to put accessory structures, as well as we spoke to CMS, Randy Bothune about where to put accessory structures, and they were in agreement with planning and zoning committee that 128 feet was brought forward by one of the members as being a certain size. You remember what that's at? But
Yeah, it's limited to just the distance between the shed and the dwelling.
right.
What brought this up?
There was a resident in town who was building a shed that was smaller. It's near their home, very close to their home, and they have a cement pad laid, and the shed, accessory dwelling structure, is going to have the same siding as the house. And so a variance was brought, or excuse me, amendment to the ordinance was because of that.
Right. Randy Bolton, our building official, went out there. I think the shed was built. And he cited it and said, hey, you need a variance for this. It's too close to the home. And then he did a little bit of research, and I believe it was fire code that he came up with. This size of a shed would be okay that close to the home. So rather than going to a variance, well, if it's okay per fire code and insurance, well, let's
Make it up.
amend and not have to deal with that again. That's my recollection, Matt. Am I characterizing that right?
Areas in town where there's smaller sheds that are right up next to the house, so we're kind of bringing those into compliance.
Yes.
I'll make a motion then to amend section 3, subsection 2. What is that? What it is?
Section 3, sub 3, 2, areas.
Okay.
What it says on the memo.
Yeah.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 500. Thanks, Kurt. Reports, Brian.
I don't think I have anything. I spent so much time trying to figure out what I was going to say in the fire board thing. I forgot to put a report together. So no, I don't have anything.
Matt? Kurt? James? Kim? Mike?
Just wanted to say that we got that PLC, or I should say, Steve and his group at the PLC and on the wastewater plant. That required a complete shutdown of the wastewater plant and bypassing it, so that went really well. They came in on Monday, they had us back on floats by Tuesday, and then by Wednesday, they had the panel view and everything back up for us. We lost one of the pumps right away, we had an extra, but then we went down to Ziegler's and picked up another one just to have it there. Basically, the TLC is the whole brains of that wastewater plant, so when you lose it, you don't have anything to go off from, so. So I just want to thank Paul and Jeff. They did, Paul only had to spend one night out there. And Jeff came in early that morning to relieve them, but all the staff helped set up the pumps and tear them back down and stuff. So I was really impressed at how well ASI put that whole thing together for us, efficient and running smoothly. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. You gonna talk ambulance? Okay. I just have one quick thing. November 30th, we had the Senate Bonding Committee stop in for trying to get more funding. I thought it went great. I thought the Senate was for it. Was very positive about it. So that was kind of exciting to do that for the third or fourth time. So.
And Kim made some really good cupcakes.
Oh, I might have had 3.
Well, we've determined that 3 of those were like one piece of cake, so you're okay.
Perfect. Sarah? Bob? Joan? Kevin?
Just on the ambulance committee, they're changing their billing service, but otherwise, everything's going well.
Perfect. Meeting adjourned.
That was way too long for my sensibilities today, sorry.
No, that's okay. I told my wife it was gonna be long.
You do get that? Vincent, you silent me.
I told her.